Hello, podcast. Hello, welcome back to the heyHAE podcast. Today, we're going to get into the nitty, the gritty, the TMI, the oops, all information version of what I saw in my Etsy shop in 2025. And yes, that's going to include dollar amounts. It's going to include what we spent on shipping. It's going to include people favoriting things and how much certain listings made. So if that's up your alley and or that's going to scratch an itch in your brain, welcome. Welcome, sisters and brethren. Hello. Welcome to this episode of the podcast. It might be a two-parter. It just depends on what I can get done here within the 45 minutes or an hour that I try to keep these two. But we're going to go over everything. Now, one of the most fantabulous pieces of the puzzle is that the post that we're going to go over today is going to be live by the time this podcast companion comes out. So if you are like looking through things and or you're just kind of like, I just want to read the numbers, I really don't want to listen to heyHAE talk through it, that's totally fine. You can go see the post in person. And for those visual folks like me who need to see something while being talked to, if you will turn your attention to the video that's currently playing that you're watching, I am going to pop up a screen capture so that we can all follow along together. Now, you're going to see like the hey, this is spelled incorrectly kind of lines, but that's because this is part of the Patreon editor. I figured I would do it this way first, as I publish it, because you guys are used to getting the unfiltered version of me anyway. So I figured we would just do it this way. So moving right along, we're going to talk about all things Etsy. So I wanted to talk about the three major changes that happened to AstroloSheCraft on Etsy/IRL, which means in real life, in 2025. First of all, we had... Okay, this is why I was scared. Okay. We had 3 listings taken down for IP, intellectual property violations, i.e., not to be confused with IP, but basically the fan art ban happened to AstroloSheCraft twice in 2025. The first one happened with the Kawaii Space Marines 3-pack, the stickers. Was taken down by the Games Workshop, who owns Warhammer. So that makes sense. That does track. That was one of our first stickers that we ever really put out, other than some of the Witchy and Zodiac ones. But it was taken down in January of 2025. So it has been a whole year by the time of this recording, which I'm recording on the 22nd of January 2026. The Kawaii Space Marine white vinyl decal, which is the same design as the Kawaii Space Marine sticker, was taken down by Games Workshop at the same time, again, January 20th, 2025. And then one of our quick little rising stars, the It's Not Delivery, It's Dia Giorno, from the JoJo franchise, was taken down by Viz Media, June 7th. I couldn't remember what the 6 was. June 7th, 2025. So, Viz Media, I don't think they own JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, the anime and or like just like the IP. I think they own technically the English version, perhaps. But they still took it down for IP infringement, which that's valid. It was a fan art sticker that I had illustrated. And that's kind of the risk you run when you do fan art. Just to iterate, I'm not going to read some of these posts like verbatim, but yes, fan art is technically illegal. You do not own the intellectual property. Now, if you're looking through things that enter like public domain and then you make art from that public domain, that's, I believe, safe, because that is like kind of free use. However, if you are someone who frequents conventions, or, you know, you're going to some of your local game shops or local card shops and you're seeing some of these like a fan-made body pillow or you're seeing Kirby with a knife on a sweatshirt. That is still not official, especially like in Kirby's case. That's not official licensing from Nintendo. Somebody else made that, and you were making a profit off of somebody else's intellectual property. And therefore, yes, it's illegal. And I do want to say, as far as, well, how'd you get banned? Well, how did those come down? How'd they ban them? They do have active agents kind of searching the platform, especially if something gains traction. Unfortunately for me, in AstroloSheCraft, the Kawaii Space Marines were very popular. I think we almost made, I want to say like around $500 just on the sticker 3-pack, selling for $5 a piece. The decal didn't really sell all too well, but the stickers definitely did. And so that kind of threw a red flag out into like general search results, not even just like Etsy's SEO and search visibility, but like general search visibility, coming up in Google searches, there were some Reddit posts. The photos were coming up for people who bought them and then put a review. So it was gaining a lot of traction for Warhammer. And I was using the actual like Warhammer name. I was also using Space Marine, which is a trademarked title. And that is a huge no-no on Etsy, which is something that we can kind of talk through probably in a different sector of kind of like how you can address your Etsy and like fix things and or make it better. But that is a different segment for a different day, perhaps. But more than likely, that's how they found us. We can be popular on the internet all we want, but I was using directly keywords that said like Warhammer and Space Marine and Ultramarine and all these things. And that is cashing in on their IP. Though other people are on the platform and they sell, what's a good example? They sell like a dice tower that's the shape of a Space Marine. It's 3D printed. Why aren't they getting taken down? Things like that. Those are questions I've definitely asked myself, especially in times of frustration. But it's okay. We knew the fan art is always kind of a risk. And so if you have been on the Etsy, you have noticed that things that used to say like Warhammer 40,000 or 40K now say Hammy 39.99K as kind of a way to circumnavigate those search bots and or people who are browsing to IP strike. So what that means for the shop, I believe, I don't know if it goes by year, if it's just in total. My belief is that it's in total. If we were to get another policy strike, then our shop would be taken down from Etsy's storefront altogether. So it's definitely kind of a scary thing to think about. So that's why I try not to think about it as often. But that's one of the biggest changes. The second one is that we upgraded the shop to Etsy Plus, which is a paid version of the Etsy platform. It allows, extra customization. I think they give you a budget for Etsy ads, but like $5 a month, which really doesn't do a lot. But this means that I can further customize like what the storefront looks like. And that to me is worth its weight. I believe it's $10 a month. I think it's $10 a month or so, about that. And it just comes out of whatever revenue you make. So as long as I sell $10 worth of stuff a month, which I generally do, it just kind of comes out of itself before the revenue hits my bank, which is nice. The other thing that we did in 2025 is that we returned to PopCon Indie. If you're unfamiliar, we did PopCon Indie for the first time in 2023. And to be transparent and loving, it was not the best experience, both for things in my control and without my control. But we we're at the convention. We are also returning for 2026 with Brightside Creative. If you missed that episode with Kyle and I, you should go back and listen. But we almost made booth back. So the booth, if we're doing David's math, which I do agree with David's math, the booth was around $345. And then if you minus out the badges, which basically is like a VIP badge, we get in early, we get in Thursday, we can stay, I don't say late, but like as a vendor, like you're there, like just actually probably more than the VIP guests are. We value those out at like $60 a piece. That's what PopCon values them out as. So the booth kind of comes into being $225. And we made $225.41 in cash. Now that doesn't include like parking or gas or food. We're talking just straight up booth fees versus straight up what we took home. And then I believe I also took out the sales tax, the Indiana sales tax for cash. If you are unaware, if you are at a convention or at a market or at a craft fair or something, and you are taking cash payment, you are required by your state law, at least my state law here in Indiana, to record how much money you made in cash and then pay that sales tax out to the state by the end of the year. So I typically do this right after Christmas just to make sure that if there's any other events I'm involved in, or like maybe I make a sale in person, that I have that sales tax paid out. It's 7 cents on the dollar here in our state. So it really doesn't come out to be a too egregious amount of money, or at least so far. Hoping for more profit this year, but so far it's only been like maybe like $8, $10 paid to the state. But you do have to do it. It's not automatically calculated for you. They don't tell you. They'll send you a reminder that you're in violation, like in February, if you just don't do it. I think there is a fee associated. So anyway, if you were not aware up until now, if you do any kind of cash sales, make sure that you are keeping track of how much that is. I use the Square point of sale system on my phone and on my iPad, where I track both the credit card sales, debit card sales, as well as the cash sales. And so I'm able to just look in that terminal and it'll tell me. The other part of that is that we hit a really good spot in 2025. There was a Gundam booth and a Tubbo, which is like the IP rubber duckies. So like if you want like a Minecraft rubber ducky or Game of Thrones rubber ducky, those booths were directly across from where we were. And so they had like really tall displays and they had flags at the very top. So like if somebody were to come in and like look, or like word of mouth, you just go like find the Tubbo flags, like go find the rubber duckies and you'll find AstroloShe. She's over there. So that was a really great time. We had one of the more visible spots in the hall outside of being like right inside the front door and right inside that main vein. It was great. But those are the biggest 3 things that we did. So we made some updates to some listings. We did an in-person event finally. I guess I should also say I didn't mention we had a hot streak of 7 months in a row being a star seller on Etsy. So the star seller program rewards customer service and fast shipping. So if you're in a scenario where you're using stamps versus a actual tracked shipping label, you will not be able to qualify for star seller. I did that for a couple years and then finally got my thermal printer, though she's a little finicky. Love you, don't hurt me later. I was telling that to the printer behind me. But it rewards people and then it helps with search visibility if you're a star seller. So it's always a good thing. It's nothing you have to apply for. It's just if you meet the recommendations or the qualifications, then at that time you will become a star seller. You have to make sure that like you get messages back quickly. So don't just let messages sit in your inbox, even if it's only for like 5 or 6 hours. I think the cutoff is right around there, like that threshold. you have to respond like as quickly as humanly possible. So that's cool too. That's kind of like a small honorary mention that I forgot to mention when I was talking about the Etsy Plus. Anyway, this is where I would usually pause for questions, but there's literally no one in this office, so we're going to keep going. We're going to talk about Etsy specifics performance metrics. That's a mouthful. I have my one of my squishies, my fidget toys. So if you hear like this noise, that's what it is. Please disregard. It's me having to fidget so I can stay on task. So we're going to talk about some of the things that are available to you in your Etsy dashboard. These are available to everyone. You don't have to go to like a specific, like down the rabbit hole, like down 15 layers to find this. These are kind of surface level things. And then later on, there are some stuff that I had to go down really deep to find. And I'll make sure I note those to you. But if you are on Etsy, you should know what these look like. So these will be in your stats tab. It's broken out into visits, orders, conversion rate, and revenue. So we're going to talk about visits first. Now, just to make sure that everyone is on the same page with me, because I get visits and views mixed up. This has been kind of a theme from my more SEO heydays, where I would kind of get them backwards because they sound so similar and they start with the same letter, and it's just they're similar and they're not. But a visit is the number of unique people who have checked your listings or shop. So whereas the visit is someone physically coming in the store, a view is someone looking in your windows and seeing maybe if they want to come in. They can walk by multiple times, and that'll rack up the view count. The visit count is like that actual like doorbell dings, and you say, hey, welcome in. So for 2025, we had 6,727 visits overall. It was a decrease from last year, but also I'll state here, I'm probably going to say it again, but the economy is way different and people's budgets are way different 2024 versus 2025. It's definitely hurt the small business community, and not even just like small illustrators, but like everyone. So just to put the blanket note out there, just in the beginning, why not? But peak time for 2025 as far as visits go, people coming in the door, was May. The lowest visit time was April and July, which is kind of like on the opposite ends. They were generally tiled, so I had to put them both in here. But as far as breakdowns for visits, so how did we drive these customers in? How did these customers find my store? How did these folks find the door to come in and say, hey, and we welcome in the store? A lot of it is from the Etsy app and other Etsy pages. So if you're unfamiliar with just Etsy in general, like going shopping on there, maybe you have a shop, but you don't necessarily shop on there, you should know that, yes, there is an Etsy app for the shopping, and there's also a shop owner app. But on the other Etsy pages, if someone's browsing something that's like relative to one of your products, it may suggest it at the bottom, either of the search results page itself or of a specific listing, kind of like on Amazon where it's like customers frequently buy these together kind of thing. And therefore somebody can click over and come visit my shop or come visit that listing and give us that unique stamp. So that's how we got most of our visits. 4,063 out of a total of 6,727. Next is Etsy search. Search is just coming up in those search functions. So that has to do with, yes, your tags, but also a lot to do with the description. And what words you're utilizing to describe your product. Etsy marketing and SEO. There's a little bit, I think this is maybe where the tags come into play for Etsy, as well as their listing titles being more relevant in their search engine optimization. But in my opinion, I believe that the Etsy search and the Etsy marketing and SEO kind of go hand in hand. But it's nice they broke it out. Social media brought 46 visits. I know that I try to post on Instagram at least once a month. At minimum once a month. But I try to post direct links so that people can just click on like, ooh, that's a cool sticker, and they can just click on the listing link and just go right to it. And that's how those visitors came. And then Etsy ads. So these are the paid Etsy ads that you can take out, kind of like you can take out ads on Facebook. You can take out sponsored segments on, like Instagram or a sponsored post. We see them all the time on TikTok as well as you're trying to go through your feed. I have not spent money on Etsy ads the entire time I've been on Etsy. All of what's being driven is from an organic perspective, meaning the free, what you can do for $0. I know I pay for Etsy Plus, and there is that credit that comes with it. However, I do not utilize it. And so for both years, you'll see the Etsy ads is at $0. But in 2024, we saw kind of the same numbers. Of course, we're a little bit deflated in some areas between the Etsy app and other Etsy pages. We went down just shy of like 600 visits, which in all, I'm glad that we crested 4,000. That makes me a happy camper. So we're within range of what we saw last year. The Etsy search, again, we saw a decrease of about 600, but we're still in that 1,000 range. That makes me happy. Etsy marketing SEO, we did take a bit of a dip there. I'm not super concerned about it. Or excuse me, I'm looking at it backwards. We did see an increase, specifically the marketing and SEO portion, which, to be transparent with you in this moment, I kind of want to figure out and do a little bit more research on what that actually is quantifying, rather than just putting it under Etsy search. But that's something that I will have to dig a little bit more into. But we did go up in 2025. We also very slightly went up as far as direct and other traffic. Direct and other traffic is people having your Etsy link, either your storefront or a listing, outright, and either they put it into the search engine themselves, or maybe it's a QR code and they click on on my link tree. You can click on browse my store or whatever the button says, and they come directly to the shop. That's what a direct link is. And then the other traffic is just kind of lumped in. Basically, they didn't find you from Etsy. They found you from a link somewhere else. Social media, we gained 5 in 2025. So thank you to those 5 that helped us out there. And then again, Etsy adds 0. With the visits, we talk about listing views. So the listing views, again, is we're in a storefront. The visits are people coming in the door. The views are people walking outside and kind of window shopping, where you look in, you're like, oh, yeah, that's kind of cute, but I have to go get my hot dog. And you come back and you're on your way back from your hot dog and you're like, oh, I didn't see that before. It's like when I walk past Hot Topic and I go shopping in Hot Topic. Very cool. I check out, I leave, and then on our way out, because I wanted to go to Bath & Body Works, and we have to pass Hot Topic again, I look up and I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't see that bingo shirt from Bluey. Oh my gosh, I didn't see that. That's a view. I technically have looked at Hot Topic, 2 times, but I've only gone in once. So 2 views versus 1 visit. So we talk about views. This is also defined just blatantly up here. This number can give you insights to which items attract the most eyeballs. So think about, again, the window shopping idea. Think about, this is what you'd put in the window to really entice people to come in. This is how you build your window display for people to be like, ooh, I need to go in and see if they have that in my size. So the top 5 listings for 2025. The Kawaii Dreadnought brought in 1,144 views, so sets of eyeballs. Thank you so much. The Carousel Marine, 931 views. Lack of Mythical Sight, which is a Good Mythical Morning reference, 765 views. Chain to You, the Chainsword Charm, which is the actual physical friendship bracelet, that we utilize a piece of leftover weapon from like the army builds that David puts together. We drill a few holes in them and we make it into a chainsword bracelet. That got 319. And then the sleigh sword, the same kind of thing, but in a sticker form, 301 views. So these are the top 5 things that are bringing people into my shop when they find them. Whether that's out in the wild, whether that's on the app, whether that's on my Instagram, or someone shared something with them. That's what's pulling people into our shop. Now, let's talk about orders. Talking about orders. So, what defines an Etsy order? It's when the order is fully complete. So, whether you have 15 things in your cart or one thing in your cart, those are still one order and one order. In-house, David and I call them multi-orders or multis because they have multiple stickers or multiple whatever it is in one singular order. The order count is also affected by if people maybe they don't bundle stuff up in the cart, so they'll come in and buy a Carousel Marine sticker, and that's one order, and then 5 minutes later they want a Kawaii Dreadnought sticker, and that's a separate order. So it is kind of affected by that. I took Etsy's numbers directly. I didn't group anything together as far as like, oh yeah, that went to Jessica. She actually got 2 of those. It was just 2 separate orders, but we'll count it as one. I have not doctored it, so these numbers are from those exported data points. But 381 orders overall. The peak orders were in December. The lowest order is in October. That is honestly very on trend for retail in general, especially when you have 4 major holidays coming right up, especially in October when we're facing Halloween, of course, which is one of my favorite holiday. But we're facing Halloween, we're facing Thanksgiving, we're facing Christmas, and facing New Year's, which, you know, there's maybe not a lot of money in comparison spent in like Halloween time or New Year's time, but definitely for Christmas, and then definitely food budget, travel budget for November. So it makes sense to me that we saw kind of our lowest time in October and our highest time in December. If we're looking at the screenshot, and I'll scoot back up a sec, the dotted line represents the previous year. So you can see that we kind of coasted and then really just like pumped up them numbers in September, and then plateaued a little, but then November and December were just rocket fuel. Again, the economy is a little different, so we're going to be kind about it. In addition, I wanted to take things a step further, and this is part of the additional TMI that you're like, hey, no one asked for this. And I said, you know what? I don't care. My hamster wanted to do it, and so we did it. I kind of wanted to do a comparison of like single item orders versus multi-item orders, which I didn't update the full experience here. So give me a sec, and I'm actually going to just do the math really quick here. 41, 38, 216. Okay. 216. And I'm going to take out the private orders. So, like, when this post goes live, you're not going to be able to see it. I didn't include private orders in the 2024 metrics. Private orders, I don't think, get lumped in with the overall orders from your shop. I could be wrong. If you're familiar with this and you can fact check me either way, please comment. Let me know. Because I'm still not quite sure. But I have decided to just kind of take out that factor. But if we're talking about single item orders, we saw 212 this year, or I should say 2025. And then in 2024, we saw 296. So we're still in the 200 range. The drop came with the multi-orders. Even though we put more multi-order feelers out there, we added like the Hey Thanks, which is an incentive, and we'll talk about that a little bit later in this list. But we had pretty comparable numbers as far as like how many items per order. We had pretty comparable numbers. Of course, it's going to be a little bit lower. The 4 to 5 ordered items in one basket, we'll call it a basket, was literally only 3 less than 2024 in this economy, and that is really great. I'm quite happy to see that. Okay, so now that we've talked about kind of single orders, multi orders, I also want to take a look at the ship states. Now, this is a metric that is not necessarily readily available in the Etsy dashboard or like in your stats profile. I did have to download some Google Sheets, and honestly, I'm kind of thinking about maybe making a. I'm thinking about making a Google Sheet so that you can just download your own CSV from Etsy, and then you can just plug and play the numbers, and all you have to do is just like put in your information, and it should populate the charts for you. Thinking about maybe if I can't do that, I think that would be really fun. But I love to take a look at the states. I don't ship internationally inherently. I know that we ship to some different naval bases, which some have ended up in like Puerto Rico and Germany and things like that, just based off the P.O. box that it kind of goes to. And I believe we've technically, with those bases, have shipped to Canada and UK as well. United Kingdom, that is. Or the EU, perhaps. But we mostly stick to the States because tariffs are weird. Custom forms are weird. And I want to make sure that I have my head around everything. And currently I do not. So, top 5 of 2025. This list almost looks identical. California at the very top with 55 orders. Last year they had 54 and also won the race. Texas, 54 orders. Kind of a jump from 2024. Washington came in third with 54 orders. Big jump for them as well. Florida came in fourth in 2025. Still more than they did in 2024. And then New York was knocked out of the bracket by Illinois. Illinois came in 2025 with 33 orders and nudged a few states out of the bracket. But I always love to do kind of like a state race, if you will, even if no one really cares and I don't post about it. Because it's kind of like a, I don't know, it feels like a scratch-off situation. Like, ooh, I was out to lunch earlier today with my cousin and my aunt, and we got an order from Utah. And I was like, ooh, I don't think I have a Utah this year. Let's go. And it's something just like a little morsel to get excited about. And that works for my brain. So I love putting the states. I love putting them in order and seeing where they land. So as far as just like complete orders and where they ship to, California has won, I think technically 3 years in a row. And Texas, Washington, Florida. I know New York was in there 2024. I think for 2023, I'm trying to think. I think for 2023, I know Indiana had some numbers. I think Michigan was also a contender for 2023. But it's really cool. It's really cool to see where things go to. I know in the day-to-day, and I put things in a tracker, which I have discovered like the Etsy downloading like sheets magic, and I don't think I'm gonna have to manually track those anymore, which is actually kind of nice. So moving on, we might actually get to the end of this before we depart today, which will be really cool. The next piece of this is the conversion rate. Now this makes me so proud. So frickin' proud. We were kind of on par with what we saw in 2024. There's a little bit more volatility here in the fall, but at the same time, we ended up pretty close to where we were. Conversion rate is really just the percentage of people who visit your shop or product listings and end up making a purchase. On Etsy, a good conversion rate typically falls between 1 and 3%. Brother, 5.7, Junior. It makes me so happy, especially coming from a world where, the search metrics in like Google Analytics and like Etsy, there are a lot of similarities. But when I see the conversion rate, like on the Etsy store, and it's just like, there's so many other factors that like, I get worried about XYZ, and it's just like, nah, that conversion rate, out of the freaking water, and it feels so good. Anyway, I'll stop leaning into the mic and like getting in your ear, but our highest conversion rate, just like monthly, was August, which we can see here. The lowest would be October, but like that's also, we didn't see a lot of orders in October either, so that's okay. The other part that can play a factor with the conversion rate, and the rate in which clients customers want to click on a listing and actually purchase it, things like promo codes can help with that conversion rate, because that kind of gives them like a little carrot or a little cupcake, like on the fishing line, on the hook, to be like, you know what, that's on sale, I'm actually going to go ahead and get it. I know that, especially loving Torrid, even though I have some thoughts and feelings about that right now, but loving Torrid, if there's a mega sale, and like even clearance is like 70% off the clearance price, I'm gonna go make an effort to at least peruse and get that visit, get those views, and look at different things, and then like, well, like, the top's on sale, so I might as well get the boots. Like, oh, I probably need a new bra. Not that my Etsy store is selling bras or boots or anything, but if there's a promo code, perhaps people may be more enticed. So, in 2024, we introduced Baby Come Back, which is for abandoned carts. So if somebody puts something in your Etsy cart, and then you close the app or you close the website, I do this frequently with a lot of other sites, like Vistaprint is my worst one right now. It's just like, I'll put something in there, I'll fully upload stuff and be ready to check out, and then just chicken out at the end. Baby Come Back, which is 30% off your whole order, so a pretty nice little discount there. You're My Fave, if you favorited an item, and I believe it's like when you close the app and like the next time you visit the app, I think, Etsy will send you a notification that AstroloSheCraft has offered you a 30% off deal because you favorited the Kawaii Dreadnought or whatever you favorited. And then in 2025, we introduced a new running promo that's running at all times, is the Hey Thanks. So if you purchase something with us, you fully check out, we fully ship it to you, you will get an offer for 30% off your order total when you spend $5. So for context, if you're not familiar with what I sell in my store and it's on AstroloSheCraft, the stickers run about $2.50 USD. So you buy 2 stickers. I believe the bracelets are going for $5 a piece. The keychains are going for X amount. It's really easy to spend $5. So if you get more things, excuse me. If you get more things, I didn't mean to yawn in your ear. I'm so sorry. If that made you yawn, let me know in the comments. I'm so sorry. But if you go ahead and put stuff in your cart that's $5 or more, you'll automatically get 30% off the whole total, which won't be $5 at the end of the day. This is a promo to help people try to bundle some more, so that rather than have many single orders that go out, it's trying to entice people to order multiple things at once from you. So, talking about the codes, Baby Come Back has been the biggest used code between 2024 and 2025, 190 codes were used. So that's the abandoned carts. So, like I said, if you have something in there, you close the app, you close the website, you come back, Etsy's going to send you a notification on my behalf that I'm offering you 30% off your entire order. So, and a hope that you will come back, look at those items that you maybe favorited and or you have in your cart, and go ahead and just get a discount on it. We had 190 of those used. You're My Fave garnered 27. Hey Thanks actually used 9 codes, which we started. I'm trying to think. I know it was maybe like halfway through the year in 2025, the Hey Thanks, or closer to fall, because I think Etsy did like a general, like bigger push for that, for people to set up that deal. Sorry, chat, I got a drink. But I've also included in these lists some other promo codes that I've like utilized that are just kind of one-offs. This year we did a back to school where, I don't know, I got a wild hair and I was like, you know what? People have notebooks and folders, and those notebooks and folders should have stickers on them. Think about it. Think about it. Cinema. People should have stickers on them notebooks. And so I did a back to school sale. 24 codes used, which is great. I also did Cyber 25, which Etsy runs sometimes promotions that you can kind of take part in that will help search visibility if you do take part in them. And so in addition to that specific sale, I did a Cyber Monday kind of dealio for 25% off your order. 77 of those codes were used. So really people, that tells me that, especially around the holidays, those codes really get used. And then, like I said, Etsy did a Black Friday like umbrella promo participation. All you have to do is just like sign up and decide what you want your promo or your promotion or discount to be, and then Etsy will kind of lump you in with like everybody else that has agreed to participate in like a site-wide, kind of deal. And that had 42 codes used. 2024, just some highlights. Small Business Saturday, small 24, 16 codes used again. Really around the holiday time, especially when shipping is still viable. Because I'm not Amazon, but we try to go as quickly as possible. ASC 23 was for free shipping. 1 code was used. ASC 30 for 30% off. 3 codes were used. Those were manual promo codes, and when I say that, I mean I like put on essentially like a business card and like, hey, if you want free shipping on your next order or 30% off your next order, use this code at checkout. So it's a manual step that the customer has to go ahead and order from us already, or see it on somebody's fridge or in the trash can, whatever it is, and say, ooh, I want that discount, and they have to physically put it in themselves, whereas everything in 2025 is automatically applied. I think that also kind of is the way, like this is the way, because even in 2023, 2022, because like those ASC codes have been in there for a while, it just doesn't hit the same, especially with the demographics that I'm trying to go after, which is, yes, young adult, but also millennial and maybe into like the boomer-ish generation that especially plays like Warhammer. They want to make the decision then versus like a reminder to do it later. They want to just make the call at that time. So having the automatic codes be applied and or Etsy sending it out on my behalf has been huge for the usage as we can see. Okay, moving right along. Let's talk about revenue. Cha-ching, money, 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 money. Okay. Overall, in 2024, we made $1,959.31. All things considered, that is a decrease, of course, from last year. We were just shy of $3,000 last year, I think. Yeah, $2,818.39 for 2024. So it very much was a decrease. However, it was a learning year, and we'll kind of talk about things at the very end here. But as far as revenue goes, the highest grossing month was December, $264.55, and then the lowest revenue month was $53.75. So we were talking about Etsy Plus earlier in this podcast, and how it's like $10 to $11 a month. As long as you can make $10 or $11 a month, you're fine. Even at our lowest month, it was still $50. So that's not anything to snub our nose at. So, in a similar vein to what we took home, it's also very important to share with you how shipping works. Now, shipping is applied to the order at checkout, of course, and you, the customer, let's role play a second. I'm AstroloSheCraft, obviously. But you as the customer, the shipping is already applied to whatever you're trying to buy at checkout. You'll pay that full price. So, like, let's say you're buying one sticker, and that's $2.50. The AstroloSheCraft shipping is $1. You will pay $3.50, and then plus whatever state tax applies to you. That money, other than the tax money, and Etsy's small cut, because they cut everything, comes to me. And then I have to pay your shipping with that amount. So I just wanted to give that distinction, because that's something that was hard for my brain to grasp. So I also wanted to say it out loud for all of us here, for both of us here. So when we say that, I also do want to note that yes, we do charge $1 for standard first class shipping, even though that postage is 73 cents. Because let's say you order 15 stickers. Well, that's super cool, and thank you for doing that. I love you. However, we try to match freebies, which is free stickers that get included, and every single order gets freebies. We try to match freebies 1-to-1 if we can. So what is your 15 sticker order now turns into 30 stickers. And or maybe it's like 10 stickers and a bookmark and a vinyl decal that like isn't like no longer sold, but like we have some of. That costs extra postage. I've had stuff sent back to me because it's not enough. And I've had clients, good Lord, customers who have received the package but like had to pay the post office the extra money for it to be delivered and be released. And we don't want that to happen. So we go ahead and charge $1. And if your singular sticker only costs 73 cents, we keep the other, 27 cents? We keep that as profit. I'll just be transparent about it. We do that, again, just in case there's an overage, and that's already going to be paid for. So in first class tracked postage in 2025, we paid $330. In bubble mailer tracked postage, which is our keychains, our acrylic pins, our magnetic bookmarks, our bracelets, and more things coming soon, of course. It typically ranges between $4 and $5. It just depends on where you live. Again, we ship out of Indiana, central Indiana, so it may be lower if you maybe live in like Michigan, or lower if you, of course, live in the state of Indiana, or maybe even like a neighboring state of ours. But if you're ordering something to like Arizona or all the way out in Washington, it may be a little bit more to get the bubble mailer to you. But we paid $194.24. Then if we're looking at 2024, we paid even more for that tracked postage at $434, and then a bubble mailer came in at $255.04. And this, just to note, this does not include any kind of popcorn revenue. This is strictly just Etsy. I want to make that note just because that $225 that we made there did not go through the Etsy platform. It did go through Square, but as far as like looking at Etsy stats, that's not included here. All right, now to the last section. I guess we may not do a part 2, but I do want to make a part 2 about kind of reading your stats and kind of reading them together with you guys. So that may just happen, but for those of you who are wonderful patrons, and thank you for being patrons, that know SEO, either I've tried to tell you about it or you work in SEO or SEO adjacent, search engine optimization is what SEO stands for, then you'll have some familiar themes, but looking at it from like the back end of Etsy rather than just kind of hypothetical numbers. Also, side note, you can link your Etsy to Google Analytics. So if you didn't know that, now you do. And you can get additional search insights based on that. So that might also be a video I will do, kind of going through GA4 with what we saw on Etsy. Anyhow, finally, for 2025, I wanted to talk about this shopper stats. So this is something that's in beta and that Etsy had kicked off in 2024. Just to give you some insights as to what your clients are doing, what their behavior kind of looks like on the Etsy platform. We had 1,642 item favorites. We had 95 shop follows. We had 199 reviews, which this data is for the whole year. So when it says you had a 5-star average for that date range, 5-star average for the entire year, which is just beautiful. That's crazy to me. I'm very grateful. 44 repeat buyers, 324 cities reached, and then 79 abandoned carts. So especially in the 2025 metrics, in the latter half of the year, those abandoned carts did get those offers, but they never came back. I couldn't find abandoned cart information for 2024. I tried to run those numbers in my Etsy stats, and they just were not there. So unfortunate, but that's okay. That's also why I'm making these posts, is that, as we move forward for like the end of this year, end of 2026, we can kind of come back to this as like a jumping off point. And I'll be able to see the abandoned carts because I'll have it documented somewhere. But we are down a little bit in favorites, down just so slightly in shop follows, reviews just down just ever so slightly, repeat buyers down a little bit, but we're within ballpark. Cities reached, we are down a bit significantly, but we did, I know, again, we had lower sales, so that makes sense to me why, we don't necessarily have the same kind of reach, because not to point the finger just at our economic situation, but it does have a factor, and we know that. But everything is kind of on par, especially with the decrease being understood. And so, yeah, I'm not super shocked. Overall, here are 3 takeaways. Just real quick here at the end. And I will turn my screen capture off. Here are my 3 takeaways. Number 1, in 2025, I did not release very much new. I didn't release very many new items. So in 2024, we were still, popping out the Carousel Marine, and we were popping out. It's not delivery. It's DiGiorno, the JoJo sticker that got taken down. We were still pumping out different things, which in the Etsy app, if you follow the shop, it will ping you in the notifications in your app or on the website to let you know that AstroloSheCraft has uploaded something new, and you should go take a look. And that can result in a view, that can result in a visit, that can result in a conversion. So in 2024, we did a lot more releases. In 2025, we really didn't. There's a lot going on this past year. But in 2026, there are plans to release things more on a kind of a quarterly basis. So, and maybe do more type of things. So that's number one. Second takeaway from all of this is that I need to be posting a little bit more content on social media. I really want to pump that social number up. I'm not trying to go viral or anything like that, but we know, I say we as a collective, that SEO works in mysterious ways, and you have to think of it from a holistic approach, both your social media and what you have on Etsy. And then, I have some partners who are with Shopify, or they have their own like e-commerce section on their website. Everything plays off each other when it comes to search. Whatever people search on Etsy, or like if my carousel marine comes up in a general search because of Etsy, that's coming up in search results. So you want to make sure that you have your bases covered. And that is something that I understand, but I haven't put into practice for my own business. And that's something I'm going to change in 2026. And then finally, digging through this data actually felt good. It scratched my brain. I figured out ways to download what Etsy can provide and simplify it. Whereas, some of my initial Google Sheets of deciphering the data, I did stuff by hand instead of doing things by charts or pivot tables or functions. And so we're also expanding horizons there. And then an honorable fourth mention is that I will be better about keeping track of expenses. I can give you some cost to makes, and that's something I also want to talk about on this channel, on this podcast. I want to talk about cost to make, but to have that accurate view, especially when we talk about, revenue versus cost, whether we're in the green or not, meaning whether we actually did profit or we are, just on par, just keeping our head above water. So I want to really be diligent on making sure that stuff is tracked for 2026, and we shall do it. But let me know if this was helpful. In fact, I know it was helpful because there's a lot of different items to take away from this. We haven't really talked about search factors or trends or things like that, which Etsy is kind of starting to roll out kind of an all-encompassing solution, so you don't have to cling to Google Trends or spend hours going through pages. They're starting to roll out those tools too, which I would love to do a review for at some point. However, for this podcast, we did it in one go. My voice is shredded, and I'm trying not to cough at you guys. Thanks for letting me yawn earlier. I appreciate the non-judgment. If you enjoyed this, or you have questions, or you even have thoughts, I want to up the engagement on Patreon, which means I need to be replying to comments. And for that to happen, there needs to be comments on the post. So whatever you want to post, just keep it nice. I mean, you don't have to keep it nice, but not hateful. Comment down below your thoughts. And then you'll be able to see the full post here soon. I'm probably going to publish this podcast first, and then I will publish the full post. So the companion will come out afterwards. But I appreciate you hanging in there and listening for almost a full hour. I know that this is some pretty precious time, but if you would like to contribute to some of the 2026 stats, I would love more visits and views and favorites and listing representation. Let me know if there's anything that you have questions on or you want me to dig deeper specifically, because I will be digging deeper, but I would love to hit some of those exacts if you have them. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I will talk to you super, super, super soon. Thanks for being patient. Love you guys. Bye!